Hello everyone, welcome back to YouTube. Today we're going to cover a topic that I get asked about regularly. How to get started in farming. My name is Carl Devaney, I'm from Sligo in the northwest of Ireland. I was born and raised on a sheep farm myself, and I've been farming a lease farm myself for the last 5 years. So I've been through some of the ups and downs and challenges of getting started in farming. From getting access to land to figuring out a production system and managing the healthier stock. While I'm still learning, and I certainly don't have it all figured out, this video might be useful to someone who hasn't yet started farming and wants to get started, or maybe someone who started on a small scale and is looking to scale up their farming enterprise. So point number one is research and planning. So there's a great quote by Warren Buffett. He's one of the richest men in the world. He has plenty of money to start farming with anyway. But he says, the more you learn, the more you earn. Now, probably a better adaptation for farming is the more you earn, the less you lose. You need to be always hungry to learn new knowledge and gain new skills. There's a steep learning curve for farming, particularly in the initial years. You'll make mistakes, and the biggest factor that will determine whether or not you'll succeed at farming is how quickly you can find and absorb the information that you'll need in order to become a competent farmer. So where do I find this information? How do I learn how to become a good farmer? Well, there's a number of ways to do it. Number one, farmers in your local area. It's a big world out there with all different kinds of climates, all different kinds of land types and soil types. But the farmers in your local area, or at least the good ones, will know how to farm the land where you intend to start farming. They'll be able to advise you on what breeds of sheep or cattle to use on the particular land that you want to farm, what sort of equipment and facilities that you'll need, or even what kind of grants or supports are available for farmers that are starting off in your country. The great thing is that the average farmer is not a celebrity, like they're not a VIP, like they're just normal, everyday working people. And most of them would be happy to help you out, give you some words of advice or point you in the right direction. There's nothing to stop you picking up the phone and call on a couple of farmers in your local area, tell them your situation, that you want to get started in farming, and ask them for advice and see if you can learn a bit off them. You never know, if that phone call goes well, they might even invite you out for a few days to help them out, maybe at the weekends or on a few days where they're doing a bit of work. And that's where you want to be, out on a working farm, gaining experience, learning the trade, and asking questions. Maybe just make sure that you don't ask too many questions. Make sure you do a bit of work as well and give a bit of value. Put the shoulder to the wheel when it's time to work, and then maybe keep most of your questions for when you're on a tea break or maybe when you're on the road travelling somewhere. Number two, online and offline sources of information. With the internet, there's so much available information, whether it's courses, YouTube videos, podcasts that you can listen to when you're doing a monotonous job or driving somewhere. And then offline stuff would be maybe books, maybe scientific papers. You could also have a look on the internet to find some courses, farming courses about how to look after specific types of land in order to get the best out of it, how to look after stock and how to be a livestock farmer. Courses run by professionals, by experts. You can also go to agricultural shows where there's all different kinds of demonstrations, companies advertising products and showing you how to use them. There's never been a better time in history in terms of the amount of information that's out there about how to farm. Number three is visiting markets or marts. Farmers go to marts primarily to sell their stock, but they're also quite social events, and it's a great place to strike up conversations with people that know more than you, and you can learn a lot. If you see a farmer at the mart with great lambs, for example, some of the best lambs in the mart, there's nothing to stop you going up to him or her, compliment their lambs maybe, tell them your situation, that you're hoping to get started in farming, ask them to give you a couple of quick tips for producing great quality stock like what they did. As you go to more and more marts, you start to recognise patterns. You start to see why some farmers consistently produce top quality stock and others don't. So visit marts, or better again, if you could get a part-time job at a mart, great, because you can get paid while you're learning about farming, so you're killing two birds with the one stone. Number four, trial and error. While absorbing information is very important, it's crucial, the best way that there is to learn how to farm is to actually farm. It's very hard to make sense of the information that you're taking in without experiencing it firsthand. For example, I could give you a 30-minute, fairly in-depth video on lamb and sheep. I could tell you things to do, things to avoid, common diseases to watch out for. But until you've experienced lambing firsthand, it'd be very hard for you to relate to what I'm talking about. So if you're in a position to start farming, jump in. Save up some money, lease some land, or buy a small plot, buy some stock and hook into it. That said, I think an important tip if you're inexperienced is to start small. Starting small allows you to keep your risk low, keep your investment lower and not blow all your money in the first year. And starting small means that the farm won't take up all your time in those initial couple of years, so you'll have time to actually go and visit other farms or balance a job along with the farm so you can keep the bills paid, or maybe go and get a part-time job at a mart like what we mentioned earlier. It'll just give you space and time in order to learn what you need to learn and become a better farmer. So talking about money brings us into one of the most important aspects of farming, finances and your financial situation. Farming is an expensive hobby, as farmers like to say, but if your plan is to quit your job and farm full time, then it's very important, especially in the first initial couple of years, to manage your finances carefully and keep your costs as low as possible. That way, if you have a tough year or two, you won't go out of business just from running out of money or getting into debt. And then down the line, if you have a good year or two, you can take that excess cash and reinvest it in your business and build up that way. When I say keep your costs low, it's important to look at your personal costs too. It's just such a common thing when people start working and then they eventually just start making more money. Immediately they start spending more. Maybe they go shopping more, they eat out more, get a bigger, better car with a car loan. And even if they don't enjoy their job, they have to keep working in order to fund their lifestyle, and they can't really afford to change lanes or try anything different. It's completely cliche, but like, instead of paying a couple of grand for an expensive holiday, in my mind it makes more sense to hold on to your money and try and build a life that you don't need or want to take a holiday from. This is all within reason, because you still need to live and enjoy life, and life is short. But keeping your costs as low as you can within reason in your personal life and in your business just gives you a bit of freedom and a bit of flexibility in order to pursue the dream that you have of farming full time if it's for you. Back to the farming side of things, another thing that you can really end up spending a lot of money with is equipment. You'll need a certain amount of equipment and facilities starting off, but try and buy second hand and used where you can. There's a lot of equipment out there that's used but still fairly fresh. And farmers are often selling on things, whether it's handlers or vehicles or bits of machinery or anything like that. So for me, I'm a hill sheep farmer, and probably my biggest equipment expense is my Jeep. I have a 10-year-old Toyota Hilux that I bought this year. They cost anywhere between 15 and 20 grand, which is enough money, but it's still fairly fresh and it should hopefully do me for a few years. And a new one of those is over 50 grand. So there's over 35 grand in the difference there between those two. 35 grand would buy you a couple of acres of land, or it'll buy you a good lot of stock, or it'll allow you to take a full year off work in order to really go at farming and see if you can actually make a career out of it. The final point I have is getting access to land, and it can be one of the hardest things to do in farming is to actually get started and get access to land. The harsh reality is that land as an asset is very expensive when compared to the return on it, particularly in the initial years when you're trying to find your feet and figure out how to farm properly. It makes it very hard to break in if you're trying to get going in farming and you don't have a substantial amount of money built up, or if you're not going to inherit land. But that's not a reason to be discouraged. It's still possible to get into farming. There's a couple of other ways of doing it. Leasing or renting land is a common way for people to get going in farming, as buying land is generally out of reach for most people initially. It is a great way to get going and get experience and build up stock numbers without the huge upfront investment that would come with buying land. That's how I got started in farming, and it is a good way to get going and get experience and build up stock numbers without the huge upfront investment that you would have to make if you were to buy a farm. Now, in a lot of parts of the world, it's not easy to get land to lease or to rent either. And also to get it at the right money that you have some hope of making any profit. So it's the following day, I'm in the Jeep and it's a terrible day today. There's actually a storm hitting Sligo at the moment, but have to get this video finished. So access to land, we talked about research and planning and trying to build your skills and get knowledge and try and become a better farmer. Finances, you should be trying to keep your costs low and save money. Whether you're buying land or leasing land, you're going to need some capital built up. Obviously not near as much money needed with leasing, but a lot of the time with leasing you'll have to pay the first half the rent bill for the year will have to be paid when you start. You'll also probably need to buy some stock for that land, and that could be quite a lot of stock depending on the size of the block that you're able to lease. So you need to be keeping your costs low and saving your money. And then access to land, it's not a simple one. When I look at farms and farming and trying to get a farm or try to get a block of land to start farming, it's a bit like a big game of musical chairs. If you've seen musical chairs, basically everyone sort of dances around to the music. When the music stops, you have to run and get a chair. All the farms maybe, at the moment or in your local area may be currently taken up. The only way you're going to get into a farm of land is if someone else gets out. And the way to find out and be in a position to get in if someone gets out is like networking is a huge part of it, like within your local area. Knowing farmers, knowing farms, sort of having relationships built up. And the thing is, like, the average age of farmers is quite high. I think in Ireland it's about 57 or 58, or possibly with sheep farming, which is what I do, it could even be a bit higher. So over the next few years there'll be a good few farmers looking to retire. Watching out and have your ear to the ground so that when someone's getting out of farming, that you know them and you could potentially get into farming. I think one huge thing that can help you if you're trying to get into farming, and it has definitely helped me, is some form of contracting where you're working for farmers and the type of farming that you want to be in. So I'm a sheep farmer and I'm trying to get a bigger farm and trying to take on more land, hopefully, if I can, and hopefully buy a bit of land down the line. In addition to being a sheep farmer and making YouTube videos, I'm also a contract sheep shearer. And I shear for farmers in my local area, and I also go to different countries a wee bit as well. That has been brilliant for me for a couple of different reasons. You're going around to a lot of different farms or contracting, so you're meeting a lot of different farmers. You're seeing different breeds of sheep, different systems, different facilities, sheds, yards. Like, you're seeing what works and what doesn't. It helps you to build up a bit of money. Like, there's good money in some forms of contracting, so you can build up a bit of cash so you have it there if a bit of land comes up to lease and you suddenly need to pay for half the land for the year and buy some more stock, then you have a bit of money there. But the big thing I think with contracting is going around meeting farmers and networking. You know a lot of farmers, and you're talking to them, and I'm upfront with my farmers that I shear for. I tell them, I tell them my goals, like I'm farming, but I'm looking to hopefully take on more land and get more sheep. I tell my farmers that. You build a relationship with farmers, they see you working, you get friendly with them. Eventually, at some point, if you do it for long enough, people will get out of farming. They may decide to sell their farm, they may decide to lease their farm. While they will probably want a good rent payment for leasing their farm, another big factor is most farmers will want someone that they know, that they're friendly with, that is a nice person, that will be easy to deal with, and that they know will look after the farm fairly well. So contracting definitely really helps with that. It works different in different countries. Like I see in the UK, like there's tenancies where you can be a tenant on a farm for a long time, and you can get it for multiple tenancies as long as it goes well and you're getting on well with the owner. There doesn't seem to be much of that in Ireland. A lot of the time it could be year on year, sometimes just like seasonal lets. And then sometimes you can get land for maybe a 5-year lease or something like that. One tip is that if you lease a farm, it is good in order to just to de-risk your operation. If you can try and scale up to the extent that you have a couple of different bits of ground leased, and it's just spreading your risk a wee bit. So if you lease one good sized block and you're off to the races, you build up your stock numbers and you're going well, your farm well, but maybe at the end of that lease, maybe the owner might decide, I want to sell the farm now. And if you don't have the money for it, you could potentially go out of business. And that would be an awful pity, because for 5 years or for longer, you've been building up your stock numbers, getting into the type of breeding stock that you want to get into, and then you get knocked out of business. So in order to de-risk the thing, if you can kind of scale up to where that you have a couple of different spots leased and a couple of different leases, that if you lose one, that it won't completely put you out of business, that you know, you still have a couple left, and then you can try and get another one down the line and cycle it around a bit, and then hopefully you'll be able to buy a bit of land, because when you buy a bit of land, then you have it, you should be a bit more profitable because you don't have to pay rent payments. You'll be able to invest a wee bit of money into it and upgrade the thing. Another tip for getting access to land, and it's an important one too, is building relationships with auctioneers or land agents. So in most cases, a farmer that's looking to either sell or lease their farm will go to a land agent. They kind of work as middlemen between farm owners and farmers looking to lease or buy land. So if you're looking to start farming, it's a good idea for you to just phone a couple of your local land agents. Tell them who you are, tell them that you're looking for land, you're looking to get started in farming, or if you have a bit and you're looking for more, phone them up and tell them that you're looking for land either to rent, or if you have a bit of money built up, you might even be looking for a small bit to buy. You could be lucky, it could just be right place, right time, and you end up getting a bit pretty soon after calling up the land agents. More than likely though, unless you're in a place where there isn't much demand for farmland, you're probably not going to get some straight away. These land agents generally look after bigger farmers and look after their existing clients, but that's alright. The important thing is to get to know them and get on their radar. And you can try them again in a couple of months down the line. Ring them up and say, has any land come up in the meantime? I wouldn't ring them too often because you could piss them off. They're busy people and they don't want to be constantly nagged, but ring them in a couple of months down the line and see what's changed. Eventually, if you keep going, getting to know farmers in your local area and talking to your local land agents, you will eventually get some land. And when you get your first bit with a land agent, if that goes well and just the deal goes well and you're looking after the land and it's going well, you will eventually start to build a reputation as a good local farmer who is a good person to rent land to. Getting into farming is a slow process. You have to work hard, but you have to be patient, and that can be annoying at times, but that's part of what makes it rewarding too. There's this computer game called Farming Simulator. It's where you're in this kind of sort of imaginary virtual world, and you start off with land and you farm and you sell crops and sell animals and you slowly build up and you get machinery. I used to play Farming Simulator when I was younger, and there's cheat codes for Farming Simulator where you can get unlimited money. You can buy all the very best machinery and equipment in the game. What always happens when you do that in the game is that within 10 minutes of having all the best machinery and equipment and unlimited money, it just gets boring. It just takes the fun out of it because you've won the game and there's nowhere else you can go. It's like you just sort of cheated and went straight to the top. The same goes in real life. If you could snap your fingers and in 10 minutes have a big successful farm that you didn't have to work towards for years, it wouldn't have the same value. It still would be alright. I probably wouldn't complain if it happened in the next 10 minutes. It still wouldn't be as rewarding as if you built up into a successful farm over time, slowly leveling up, making your farm bigger, your stock better, and gradually becoming a farmer that has earned that success. So work hard, stay patient, and enjoy the ride. So there's 3 quick things I want you to do. If you're an experienced farmer watching this and there's any other tips you have for younger farmers or people wanting to start off, please put it in the comment below, because I made as good a stab as I could at this video, but there's obviously probably more things that I've forgotten about. If you're a YouTube fan watching this and you enjoyed this kind of content, something a bit different, a little bit more scripted, thought out video, let me know. I won't completely go to these, but I like to mix them in maybe with the normal vlogs that we do. Lastly, it's coming into winter. Christmas is a couple of months away. I don't want to be talking about Christmas yet, but we have a merch store, ewetube.ie. We've got soft shell jackets, hoodies, and lots of gear to get you through the winter. Myself and my partner Jazz pack the orders here in Sligo, and we can ship them anywhere worldwide really. So it's the best way to support the channel. Thanks for watching the video. We'll see you for the next one.